What advice would I give to, someone in their 20s as someone who just pretty much made their way through it and well into their 30s? So I'm 32, turning 33 this year. I guess there's a number of different things that I would probably advise. I think the number one thing is not to worry too much about like who you think you should be, or what you should be doing in life. I think 20s is a very good opportunity to figure that out. And I know a lot of people kind of say that when they do these types of videos. But it really is important to spend the time trying different things, looking for different passions, researching, doing a bit of soul searching. And that's probably a term I'm going to bring up quite a bit because, talking from a religious standpoint or anything like that, but what I mean by like soul searching is trying to figure out who you are. The Japanese use a thing called ikigai. I think that's how it's pronounced. But you can use strategies like that to try and figure out what your passions are, what you should be interested in doing on this earth. So I would definitely say spending your 20s doing those types of things, figuring out who you are, is probably time well spent. I suppose, coming from someone who's quite a creative person, I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to do music, in bands, playing shows, recording studios, and a key thing that I always kept in the back of my mind is, like, obviously it's a hard industry to break into, and it's something that not everyone gets to do, and I always had it back in my mind, okay, what's the backup plan? Like, what do I do in case this doesn't work out? And some will say, oh, if you need to go all in to make those sorts of things work. And I think you can still give your 120% for that sort of thing, but also be smart about what you want to, what you can practically do to make a living. So always having that focus on what's my backup plan going to be if my creative passion doesn't work out, or I want to start a business, but I need to be able to fund that at the same time. So having that backup plan, personally for me, I've always also been very interested in technology. So I kind of started straight out of school. I was working for an IT company just as a junior in the office and doing all the shit kicker work essentially that you can do in an office. But I learned more and more about technology. And then I ended up actually progressing into sales, and that's tech sales is kind of where I am today and what I do. I'll make another video on tech sales in general and sales in general. I think it's a very, very, very good career path for young people, and I think it's one that's going to stand the test of time, especially with AI. It'd be very hard to replace salespeople with AI, especially when it comes to closing deals side of things. But look, this isn't a conversation about sales and AI and closing deals. But that's a path I would recommend, someone in their 20s to take, especially if they're, communicative and, happy to talk to people and resourceful. It's a very good skill to have, especially if you're in the creative space, because you can learn how to scale and grow your own business. Sales is a very, very crucial, skill to have. So I think it's very important as well in your 20s to get out and have fun. I don't think enough people say this, but it doesn't hurt to go out on a Friday night or a Saturday night and have some fun at a bar or at a club or something like that. And you get to meet new people. Some of the people that I met doing that when I was younger, I still talk to this day, and I've done business with. And those kind of friends you make and those connections you make in those realms, invaluable to me, you know. Now I know, especially in Australia here, a lot has changed since COVID, and we had lockdown laws before that in New South Wales, here in Sydney, where I'm from. So depending on, where you're at, what you can get around to do, but, don't be scared to get out there and, if you have to spend a little bit of money, spend a little money, but make sure you're obviously putting a little bit aside. And that's my next point. Don't go getting into debt. Like, avoid credit cards, avoid a car payment as long as you can. Not until you're earning good coin. I'm not against, going and getting a car and stuff like that, and a car payment. But, not until it's like less than 10% of your income should be looking at something like that. Always try and own outright. Don't get suckered into any, restrictive payments, because it just restricts your movement. You can't be flexible with what you want to do with your time. You're always locked down. I've got to pay this, I've got to pay that next. So having that debt free gives you so much freedom, and it sets you up for when you're in your 30s as well, especially if you're putting money aside, 10-20% of your income in a savings account. Look, I'm not going to get into the investing side of things, but if you can put some money into like ETFs or something like that from your early 20s, even your late teens, like, that will set you up for your future. So learn these types of things. Learn what ETF investing is. Spend your time with friends, do all the fun things, but, make sure you're spending at least 20-30%, maybe 40% of your time, learning what retirement is, sharpening different skills that you can use in a career path, but also, following your passions. Relationships. I never was really focused on relationships in my 20s. I'm now married now, and with 3 beautiful kids, 1 on the way, but 2 now, but, I've almost got a baby here, so I say 3. There's challenges definitely being a father, in Australia. But that's, again, I'll probably end up making another video about those things. But going back to early 20s, for me, I think a big thing was, don't get caught up in the nihilism. And I know that's hard to do in this day and age. I know everything seems unattainable. As a millennial, a big thing that we are facing right now in Australia, especially in New South Wales, is housing prices. And that's a big challenge, to be able to even get to owning a home. I can't imagine, the younger generations than me, like, what they're even thinking. Most content creators I see, they'll say that seems completely unattainable to ever get a home. And that's just, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. And what I'd like to try and sort of portray here is to not get caught up in, thinking everything's bad, because I tell you now, I've only been here a short 32, 33 years, but the amount that changes within 5 years is staggering. Think about, even, if you're 20 now, or, 25, 5 years ago, what were you doing? It was probably something completely different. So don't get too caught up in, oh my God, everything sucks. Nothing's worth it, because at the end of the day, everyone's life has value, and your life has value in this world. You have so much potential to be able to influence, but also interact and love, people, your fellow neighbor. So I guess, it can be easy in those early 20s to fall into that nihilism trap. And, by the time you get to, 26, 27, which is such a pivotal age in your 20s, you really, if you wallow in that, it's really hard to break out of it. This is speaking from personal experience. I wallowed in that self-defeat. I wallowed in that, the world is corrupt and there's so much wrong with the world. But, and it becomes, once you start to open up your career and you grow up a little more, once you're 26, 27, to try and break away from that mentality, because, you want to do bigger and better things. It's so almost addictive to slip back into that mindset. So be very careful and guarded around how you feel about these sort of things, and try not to let the world influence you and how you feel. Control the things that you can control, and kind of go, it is what it is when it comes to the things that you can't control, because at the end of the day, we can't control everything, and that's important. There was something else I was actually thinking of bringing up as well, as a bit of advice. I'm at kind of a lookout at the moment. It's really beautiful here. Rode my motorbike up here, so don't get a bike in your 20s. I only just got my license in my 30s. I think you should definitely have a full license by the time you have some experience on the road before getting on a bike, because they're very dangerous machines. So that's another lesson. Probably stay away from those in your 20s, because while they're fun and they're amazing, they're a good form of transport. I just definitely, maybe late 20s, get your license first. Be on the road in a car for a little bit before you do that. One of the big things I was grateful I did when I was about 26 was I actually took the plunge and moved state. So I'm originally from New South Wales. I moved to Queensland for 2-3 years right before COVID. COVID actually happened when I was in Queensland, and I was planning on staying there. I'd started a business, but I ended up coming back down here, and they shut the borders during COVID, and I ended up staying down here. It all worked out. I got married to my girlfriend at the time, and it's smooth sailing from there. But one of the key lessons I learned at 26, moving to a different state by myself, was that you really have to kind of start fresh. You have to make friends. You have to be personable. You have to, you're all by yourself. Like, obviously technology is great and you can contact your family and your FaceTime and all of that, but not having them there, my memory card on my actual camera ran out of space. So lesson learned. This is kind of my first time doing this, and but kind of as I was saying, don't be afraid to move interstate, because you're kind of forced to rely on your own instincts and sort of try and figure out what you need to do without sort of falling back on your family, or being able to go to back to your parents' house and stuff like that easily. So definitely some great learning experiences for me when I moved to Queensland out of my sort of home state, but I ended up moving back home anyway. I'm sorry if the audio quality is not as good on this one, but it's quite nice where I've ridden to today, and that's pretty much it. I might follow up with a part 2, just depending if I think of more things to sort of say. But that's pretty much it. Don't take it too seriously, but take it seriously at the same time. Don't get too hung up on things, don't get too nihilistic with things, but enjoy life and try and get the most out of it. So that's it for me. See ya.